and thank you for watching the forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent, and we are going to be talking about some heavy topics today with Suzanne Russell and Anna Mosley from the Northern California Anti-Trafficking Coalition. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so that's a total mouthful,
yeah.
The Northern California Anti-Trafficking Coalition. So why don't you tell us, what is it, what are you guys doing, and how on earth did you get involved with this? So either one of you, Anna, Suzanne, whoever wants to go first.
It's a loaded question. Yeah, we go by for short NCAT Coalition, so that's a little easier to remember.
A lot easier.
And to say. So we started just with a group of 5 people, us and our husbands and another one of our friends, Lance Jacobs. And basically we just all had a heart for the issue and decided we didn't really see anything going on in Redding for anti-trafficking. So we just started having meetings and kind of coming up with a comprehensive strategy to address the issue here in Shasta County.
So you both kind of have your own lives, your own jobs, you're doing your own things, right? And so tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started with this. Like, what made you make the decision to start this coalition? Besides being with each other and seeing everything that happened, you both have your own personal stories of what happened. So, Anna, you want to start with yours?
Sure.
Just to kind of...
yeah, so our story started almost 3 years ago now. We felt like we were supposed to adopt somebody out of trafficking. And so our journey kind of started like, okay, well, where do we even find somebody, you know, like a trafficking victim. After a couple years, we ended up finding a safe house and got connected with them. So for us, it was just a journey of like learning more and more about what trafficking is. Because we were originally thinking it was going to be a baby, you know, we were going to adopt, you know, a 5-year-old or something like that. We ended up with a 15-year-old who's 17 now. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, but not out of trafficking. Not the 5-year-old out of trafficking, correct?
Yeah. We didn't know what it was going to look like. So we got involved with the safe house, ended up meeting her, felt like she was a good fit for our family, and so then once she started staying and living with us, then the issue became very real and very personal, hearing her story and that kind of stuff. So when our friend Lance approached my husband and I, my husband's name is Matt, Matt and I just felt like this is something we need to get involved with, and you know, we're very much behind the scenes kind of people, so we're like, we don't really want to be the face of anything, but we felt like this was an important enough issue to step up and to be a part of and get involved with, and that's how we got to know Suzanne and her husband Ryan.
So Suzanne, how did you tell us your story, how you got connected? And then after you do that, I want to go back and say, what are you talking about? Did you have to go foreign? I mean, how is this happening here? What is the deal with the trafficking? But first, tell us what made you get interested in the first place in it, Suzanne.
Yeah, so I'm a hairstylist, and I had a break in between clients and just walked over to Barnes & Noble, minding my own business, and picked up an article, actually an article that was in Cosmopolitan magazine, shockingly enough, and read about 3 women that had been trafficked as kids in America, and now were in their 40s and 50s, and I was distraught. I couldn't sleep. I was just a mess. And I couldn't pretend like I didn't know it was happening and not do anything. So within a couple weeks, I was at a meeting with a nonprofit. I worked with them for about 2 years, and then moving up here, realized that there was nothing going on for anti-trafficking in Redding. And so then that's when we kind of met and everything kind of came full circle.
So what do you mean by trafficking? What does that term mean? We hear it, but I don't think we're really clear on what it actually means.
Yeah, so it's, I think by definition, it's by the use of force, fraud, or coercion, exploiting another person for money. So it's really what it is modern day slavery. People, kids, women, men are being sold for sex, for labor, and yes, it's happening in Redding. It's happening everywhere.
All over Northern California, you think?
Yeah, all over the nation. I mean, it really, you can't, if you don't know what's going on, it's just because you're looking the other way, and it's happening everywhere, like in every city across the United States.
So what kind of things could we look for in Northern California, in Redding, I mean, in our communities, to know, whether it's sex trafficking or labor trafficking or any sort of trafficking is happening here in Redding? What would we be looking for?
It's a pretty hidden issue in Redding, which is why we don't just have, an area of Redding where we can see it, we know it's there. You can drive by and point them all out.
Yeah, we don't have like a track, which is what they call them at other cities. Like in Sacramento, San Francisco, you can go to where, they're all lined up on the track, but in Redding, it is more of a hidden issue.
Yeah, so. It's largely facilitated by the internet, but there's places in Redding where, kind of like the seedy motels downtown and things like that, where people kind of congregate that this could be happening. There's a really good resource actually for learning the signs to look for when identifying victims, and that resource is polarisproject.org.
Okay.
It's a national movement, nonprofit, and they do a lot of research, and the signs to look for are like, it's a list.
What would be the top 5 of how would we know? Because honestly, Anna, when you said if you don't realize it's happening, it's because you're looking the other way, and I think my gut when you said that was like, well, I don't want to. I had never even thought about this. So what am I missing? Right? What are the clues that we can look for that will give us that insight?
Well, for example, the average age of a trafficked victim in the United States is between 12 and 14, so we can just safely say that's 13. So if you think of a 13-year-old that's in high school, that would be what, freshman age? What would make a person like that vulnerable would be maybe they don't have a loving home, their parents are on drugs, maybe they're in jail, maybe they're in a foster care, they've never had that family support, low self-esteem, low self-worth, signs of being manipulated, maybe they're being controlled a little bit.
Very fearful.
Yeah, fearful. If you bring up, law enforcement or something like that, they kind of get quiet and look at the ground. There's little signs like that to look for, but I think in Redding specifically, the largest problem that we have here is that we have a huge vulnerable population. We have a lot of kids with absent parents and foster care type of situations.
So if you are going by the hotels or you're on the street and you see something, sometimes you see like scantily clad girls and you don't really know what's going on, but what would you be looking for in relation to that? Motels, the massage parlors, things like that. Like what are those types of things that you're kind of looking for if you're just out? I mean, as a layperson. And then what do you do if you think you see something?
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. Well, we actually had a guy in one of our meetings that was just walking downtown and got approached by a woman, a young lady, and she was kind of soliciting him, and he turned around to look at her, and there was 2 men kind of on the side of a building watching, and it was pretty obvious that she was under the control of those men. So it's a situation like that,
So could he have picked her up and then taken her to the police? Or what? I mean, how could he have helped?
What did he do?
That would have probably been pretty frightening. And a lot of times, we can't be, as much as we want to be the people that go knock down the doors and rescue people. It's a lot more complicated than that. It's a layered issue. But blanket statement for that, call 911. Call 911. Okay. Let them know, hey, I think I see a trafficking situation. This is where I'm at. Try to be as detailed as possible. And then other resources are like One Safe Place. They're a great resource in Redding.
They're coming on right after you, in fact.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Well, and One Safe Place, we have had lots of conversations with them. So if they have a trafficking victim that has needs, they'll call us. So we're working together. And 911, a lot of times, they'll either call us if they need something, or they'll call One Safe Place if they know it's a trafficking victim and they need someplace to take her. Because that's the thing, if you are able to rescue, which a lot of times it's hard because the girls don't want to go, because they feel they're just
layered.
manipulated. Yeah, it's layered. Yeah, so. If they do want to go, then we would take them to One Safe Place or something.
Is it all girls?
Oh,
these trafficked humans, these people.
Typically in America, I would say like 90% of trafficking is women. But there are men in slavery, there are boys in slavery. This crime does not discriminate, that's for sure.
And you see with the labor trafficking is more men also, like the younger men.
I do want to ask, I want to find out a little bit more about the Beacon Resource Network. I know that that's something that works in conjunction with NCAT, which is a lot easier to say. So tell us a little bit about what the Beacon Resource Network does, because I know once these girls come out, you're there to help them, right? Yeah,
so the Beacon Resource Network is an immediate need resource network, and basically it's a great way for the community to get involved. And what happens is a girl is made aware, she's come out of the life, and we're made aware of any needs she has, whether that be a ride or a flight home or a bus ticket or some clothing or some hygiene items or food or gift cards. It's endless. We're made aware of those needs, and then we have a database of people in the community who have just said, I'm willing,
I'll take her to Rite Aid and stock her up, or to Macy's.
Well, we ask for gift cards. We don't, have them go around with other people. But usually within sending out an email, we list all the resources we're in need of, and typically within 24 hours we have everything on the list.
So tell us your contact information. I can't believe we're almost out of time.
Okay.
So if somebody says, I want to do something to help in this problem, what is the contact info? BeaconResourceNetwork.com?
No, it's NCATcoalition.org.
Okay.
And that's the coalition website, and then beaconresourcenetwork@gmail.com.
Gmail. Okay, so we'll put those links on the site. We can link it with our Facebook and try to get that information out there for you, because this is I'm really glad to know about this. I didn't know. I just read an article this week, in fact, about this. I think people are becoming more and more aware. You had your very successful event, so thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
It's commendable what you guys are doing, really.
Yes. Thank you, and we're going to be back in just a minute.
Hi, and now we're back with Jean King, Executive Director of One Safe Place. And just continuing on with our heavy topics today, we're going to be talking about another serious epidemic here in Redding, and actually the North State in general. So tell us a little bit about One Safe Place and kind of get us
One Safe Place was formerly Shasta Women's Refuge, and we changed our name in 2012 to One Safe Place. So it's been here like 46 years, and the agency serving sexual assault and domestic violence for Shasta County residents. And so we handle everything from domestic violence, family violence, child abuse, sexual assaults, trafficking, stalking, helping with the military sexual assaults, child abuse, elder abuse.
Wow.
So we have it's not just when you say sexual assault, domestic violence, it's a huge issue that really affects everybody in the county, because they know friends or someone that has experienced this. So if we all think about our own lives, we think back, or even currently, we know someone that needs help, and that's what we do. We're here to help those victims, and it is all free of charge. There are no charges for the help that we provide.
Okay.
We provide, first of all, we have a crisis line, which is the way that most people enter. They have an emergency phone number, which for here is 244-0117. And so anyone can call in on that line and maybe it's just something they need advice, or maybe maybe they need to come in and get services, maybe they need to get entered into the shelter immediately.
And for your crisis line, is it discreet so that if someone does call, they don't have to give their name, or they're not going to be entered into some database, or
so we have confidentiality as an agency. Very few people, some people will just call in and want just advice on something, and we're happy to do that. Most people, we do take their name and their information, we write it down, we do put it in our database. For all sorts of services, we report to, the reason we get paid is reporting on how many people we help and such. But the information that we do take is confidential. In other words, we're like a lawyer or a minister or something like that. That isn't shared with anybody. Law enforcement, nobody can have us share, and our own counselors can't share that. So it's really important for people to know how confidential and how legal that is. So, so we generally do take that information because we put it in the files. If we don't hear from them again, it's likely they will be calling us again later, and we can have an incident or an idea of what may have happened before. And lots of times it takes people several times to call and get the courage maybe to take the next steps. So the next step for us would be then having them come into our client services center, where then they receive personal support. So we have our advocates that are right there. We have lawyers to help. We have child protective services, elder abuse. We have all that right there to help someone who walks in the door. And from there, then we would take them the next step of, most people have resources. They can go maybe live with their mother, maybe they go back to the abuser, they just wanted some help. But if they needed to then enter shelter for protection reasons, or because they would be homeless. So that's what we call it. It's an emergency shelter, is that if what happened in the home put them out and they have no other place to go, the only other place for them might be the mission, but they don't get the services. So then, so they would come into our shelter, and then if they're in danger of their lives, which is a really important part, that then we protect them from that. And it may be that we transfer them to a shelter in another location, depending on, we do a lethality assessment is what it's called when they come in, to see what the danger in their lives are. They may not even know. We had this strangulation seminar last week talking about the difference between being choked and being strangled, and how often women refer to, he choked me, when in fact it was a strangulation, when in fact that is a felony, that is a count, and a choking is a misdemeanor. So it's attempted murder. When you strangle somebody, that's an attempted murder, and people don't realize what the difference is in that. So
that's education. So you're doing that component. Now, all of your resources are housed primarily in the downtown mall, what we used to call the downtown mall. Right? Downtown Reading. Downtown Reading,
downtown mall. South end of the mall toward Cascade Theater on the 3rd floor. You just walk in Monday through Friday there. So of course things happen, incidences happen on the weekends, 24 hours a day. So our volunteers really take on the nights and the weekends, but staff backs up. I actually last week attended a sexual assault forensic exam at Shasta Regional Hospital. I'm a backup to a backup to a backup, but I got called, so I'm glad I was there. But on the other hand, for me, sometimes directors and such, you function at a certain level, and for me it's really meaningful to actually make sure I have contacts with clients and people who need services, because you never, then it really brings it right there.
It reminds you.
It reminds
what you're doing all this stuff for. And now you have a huge project going on.
We do.
That we want you to share about. And I think part of that goes back to a story that happened in Shingletown that most of our viewers are pretty familiar with and aware of. So why don't you fill us in on kind of the background on the story, and then how that led into the big project that you have going on now. I think it's like a happy ending to a really horrible story, right?
As happy as a horrible incident could be. So most of Reading knows, because it's been on the news so much. It was even on CNN.
National news,
CNN did a whole program on it. So a woman came to us, was in the spring of 2013, and came with her 2 daughters and her dog. and Sheriff's Department had helped escort her down the mountain from a very brutal, ongoing domestic violence situation. And yeah, had she been strangled before? Definitely. Had she been burned? Yes. Had she had a knife put to her throat? Yes. Was she locked in the closet? Yes. Was she, you know, so all the horrible things that happen when you do that assessment. So when she came in, we immediately put her into our emergency, well, what we immediately offered was to go into our emergency shelter. We housed 26 women and children in 3 bedrooms. It's about a 3,000 square foot house. Think of your own homes.
Right.
And then 26. You add
26
people who are in chaos, all sorts of different people coming off of drugs, situation, crying kids, people having nightmares. She said, I can't do that. I can't go into all that crowded thing. I need some space for myself. I have my dog with me and my kids, and besides, my husband would have no trouble killing everybody in the house, and he will find out where I am. So we offered then to relocate her to a different shelter.
In another city, or?
Another city, yes.
Oh, wow, okay.
But what she offered, and which we do now for men who need help, because we don't have men currently in the shelters, we put them up in a motel. Yeah. She chose to do that to kind of get her just a night, wits about her, some peace. And she made the decision then to go home to be with her mother in Humboldt County. And she went back there and stayed with her about a month to find, you know, to get over her trauma, and what she did in that time. And he contacted her and he was wooing her, which is kind of the cycle. We call it, you know, bringing her roses. Everything will be fine, I'll change, it'll be different. But she chose this time not to believe that. And so she rented a place, actually. She was going to rent a place in Shingletown, and she went back by herself with her girls to tell him. Now, she went back and stayed a couple days and hadn't really quite got the courage to tell him. When she told him, he murdered her and the 2 girls. That would be a point, had she stayed with us in counseling, we would never have allowed her to go tell him on her own with a dangerous man like that, because exactly what would happen. So when people, also there's been some criticism of her in town, why did she go back? She didn't really go back. She went back to get her, collect her things and move out. So she was taking those very brave steps for her, for financial reasons. She didn't have any money and all of that. So when we heard then what happened, of course, as an agency and as a city, we were devastated. Why couldn't we help her? Why couldn't? That's what we do. That's our job. That's our role. We immediately approached the board of directors and said, you know, we've been saying for 20 years, we need this service. We need to, we can't help people, what we say we're doing in the emergency shelter that we have, and said, so we just have to do it. Now, I have some fundraising background. That's kind of, so maybe a little bit easier for me to push that, because that meant hiring a consultant to help us. That wasn't just,
remember that.
You were part of the process.
So, okay, so what are you doing? Tell us.
So,
we're
getting on to the result. I'm sorry, I talked too long, but keep me on track. I'm so excited. So, as of today, we have, it was a $5 million. We've raised $3 million of the $5 million. Wow. We are selecting all the subcontractors on Monday. They have already begun construction on the building. We own the building. By next fall. We will be in, and it will combine the client services on the first floor, the shelter on the second floor. But the important thing about the shelter is not only will security be better, but we are able to put each woman and her kids, man and his kids, in a separate room that has their own bathroom and shower, which is not done anywhere.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we are going from serving 26 to over 60.
Wow.
And instead of staying only the max of 30 days, they can stay up to 60, 90 days if we need to do that to get them help. It will change completely what we are able to do. Completely.
That is fantastic.
So we're thrilled.
So people, I love that kind of a happy ending to just really a tragedy. In that, if you are interested in giving money to help One Safe Place, you certainly can. They have a very robust website.
Exactly.
It's onesafeplace.org or com, or
it is ospshasta.org.
ospshasta.org. And you have your fundraiser at the end of February every year. They do the fabulous crab feed down in Anderson, right? And you have ongoing ways to get involved. So don't feel like you can't do anything, because you can. That's like the word of encouragement, whether it's the trafficking earlier in the program, and I know you work hand in glove with them.
Hand in glove with them.
Right.
Those are all our issues. Do I have a minute left to just
very quick?
No, so good. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, we are almost finished. Thank you for coming. And for our viewers, really, this was a rough program in a sense, but you know what? It's a blessing, because now you know how you can help and how you can get involved to help make your community a better, safer place for everyone. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Jean.
Thank you so
girls
much.
Earlier. Thank you for watching the forum. We appreciate you. We're so glad you watch, and we're going to look forward to seeing you next time right here on the forum.